Australia is a mecca for tourists. Each year, thousands flock to the beaches, the mountains and the outback for an up-close and personal brush with nature. Most return to their homeland with a suitcase packed with happy memories, with unforgettable experiences. But beware, reach into a rock pool or wander down a lonely bush track and very quickly things can go very bad. Over the next hour, discover the hidden perils of a natural wonderland. We'll discover the strange and terrifying array of creatures to look out for on land and in the oceans, and what happens to those who fail to heed the warnings.
We started to panic. I'm going to die.
On Savage Australia, animal attacks. It's one of life's true pleasures to swim through clear, warm, tropical waters, to laze amongst the myriad of life and dazzling colour of beaches and reefs. But these areas can be just as dangerous as swimming in the wide, open ocean. You may think sharks are the only thing to be worried about, but up here, they might be the least of your concerns.
Beautiful tropical waters, we love it, but so do the animals because it's the right habitat for them.
The dangers along Australia's reefs and coastlines can often be beautiful, mesmerising, and potentially deadly. Often referred to as the most venomous creature on the planet, the biggest and nastiest version of the box jellyfish carries toxins that attack the heart, nervous system, and skin cells.
Box jellyfish, they're deadly. They're considered the most deadly marine animal that's out there.
Box jellies, also called sea wasps and marine stingers, live primarily in coastal waters off Northern Territory and North Queensland.
By their name, they are box-shaped. They have 4 corners with long tentacles hanging from each corner. They actually have eyes on each of those sides of their box, so they're quite sophisticated eyes, actually, so they believe that they're quite clever predators, that they can actually target their prey and hunt them down.
Up to 15 tentacles grow from each corner of the bell, and they can reach 3 metres in length. Each tentacle has about 5,000 stinging cells. Unlike most other jellyfish, they have developed the ability to propel themselves rather than just drift, jetting up to 4 knots through the water. Over the years, the species has killed over 60 people in Australia and caused countless disfigurements. The sting is so overwhelmingly painful, victims have been known to go into shock and drown or die of heart failure before even reaching shore. Survivors can experience considerable pain for weeks and often have significant scarring where the tentacles made contact. During the summer months, the only safe way to enter the water is in a stinger suit. At a Townsville beach in North Queensland, 7-year-old Osborne Q was enjoying a swim with his sister. Suddenly, Osborne felt a sting and started screaming in pain. His sister dragged him to shore, where a frantic fight to save his life began.
Come on,
Off-duty nurse Kim Riley happened to be walking her dog when suddenly all her skills were called upon as she battled to keep young Osborne alive.
I've done CPR before. I've had good outcomes and had bad outcomes. And this was one time I just did not want a bad outcome. I thought, just breathe, please.
She brought him back to life, not once, but twice. Osborne recovered, although with painful wounds to show for it.
If it wasn't for her, I'd never be alive.
We're so thankful. Like, words cannot express how thankful we are.
These are the unbelievable injuries inflicted on a young Rachel Shardlow after being nearly fatally stung while swimming in the Calliope River near Gladstone.
Said she couldn't see, and then she said, am I going to die? and then she said, I can't breathe, and fell unconscious on the ground.
The doctors called it a genuine miracle that Rachel is alive. They had never seen anyone survive such horrific injuries.
I won't even go swimming at the beach, just in pools.
And these predators are found as far south as Stradbroke Island, which is where 15-year-old Michelle Karkless was severely stung.
That's how my hand got like that. Just lost my breath. Couldn't breathe properly. I thought I was going to die or something.
Further north in Mackay, 5-year-old Tennille was paddling in the shadows when a massive box jelly wrapped around her legs.
We tipped the vinegar all over. She was screaming hysterically the whole time in, acute pain.
Although she recovered within days, there's a good chance the scars will remain with her for life as a stark reminder of her awful encounter. There's another creature that's been inflicting pain on swimmers over the years, and there's millions of them.
Portuguese man-of-war, or as we call it here, the blue bottle. During summer months, we'll see them all up and down the east coast of Australia, and is actually a colony of animals. It has a breeding section, a feeding section, and a stinging section.
Blue bottles are active hunters, dragging their tentacles through the water in search of prey. And then the main fishing tentacle contracts the prey towards the mouths, yes, plural, of the blue bottle. The prey is violently impaled by thousands of tiny harpoons, then immobilised with deadly toxins. And amazingly, these armada of blue bottles have little floats that act like sails to catch the wind.
They actually have left-handed and right-handed floats. So only half of the armada will be blown on shore, and the other half will still be able to survive. Even on shore, those stingers can still sting, so there's no point going along and popping them with your heel like lots of Australian kids were taught to do in the early 70s. Leave them well alone.
Blue bottles have been a menace on Australian beaches for decades.
For the second day in a row, blue bottle stingers were washed up on beaches. Most of the people stung were treated at clubhouses, and some had to be taken to hospital. One boy, aged 12, was taken to the Prince of Wales Intensive Care Unit after he had difficulty breathing.
Shallow waters, tidal rock pools and coastal reefs have long been a playground for the inquisitive and the adventurous. But they can also be a highly dangerous place, with deadly sea creatures lying permanently in wait. Unlike sharks or crocodiles, the dangers of these marine stingers are not visible to the naked eye. Camouflaged against rock, sand and coral, the stonefish can be easy to miss, the most venomous of all fishes. The danger lies in the base of their dorsal fin, where 13 needle-like spines stick up and secrete potent neurotoxins when threatened. Their highly poisonous venom causes extreme agony within seconds and can last for days.
He would have only been about that big, a real little sucker he was. So, yeah.
How painful is it?
Yeah, it's pretty painful. Pretty painful.
The pain can be so strong that victims can go into shock or cardiovascular collapse, causing death. Stonefish antivenom is the second most administered in Australia. Also in shallow waters around Australia, hundreds of varieties of cone snails sit quietly awaiting their prey. Beneath their attractive shells, the cone snails have a poisonous harpoon-like tooth, which spikes and paralyses their unsuspecting targets. Once immobilised, the proboscis extends and the prey has been devoured.
So if you accidentally touch one of these snails on the barrier reef, you can get paralysed or you can actually die.
For humans, stepping on a cone snail or even picking it up can trigger a defensive sting, causing intense pain, vomiting, muscle paralysis and respiratory failure, and at least one death was recorded in 1935. More active and just as dangerous is the tiny blue-ringed octopus, so named for the rings that appear when the 8-legged sea creature feels under attack.
The blue-ring octopus, when they're provoked, it will give you a very nasty sting. The venom is injected and it's very, very toxic. Again, it's a neurotoxin. You've got to get help as quick as you can.
Death is likely caused by paralysis of the diaphragm, resulting in suffocation. They are responsible for at least 2 deaths in Australia before 1960. In Darwin, back in 1954, a 21-year-old sailor placed a small blue and yellow octopus on his neck while wading back to shore after spearfishing with a friend. The friend noticed a tiny trickle of blood from where the creature had been. The sailor was unaware of being bitten, but soon complained of a dry mouth and difficulty breathing, and he was taken to hospital. The distraught friend said the sailor's last words were, "It was the little octopus. It was the little octopus." When it comes to dangerous creatures, size definitely doesn't matter. Just ask Sam Canizet.
They're interesting looking creatures.
While the 16-year-old was icing his leg at Brighton Beach in Victoria, recovering from a football match, the pint-sized piranha prawns were feeding on his flesh. For half an hour they chewed away, his legs numb from the freezing water, until he got out.
By the time I'd walked across the sand, about 20 metres to put my thongs on, I looked down and noticed that I had blood all over my ankles.
We just thought, oh, we better clean off this bit of blood, and then realised it wasn't washing away, so made the call immediately that he needed to be in the hospital.
Doctors were totally stunned with hundreds of pinpricks appearing on his ankles and no idea what caused them. Confirmation that the culprits were flesh-eating sea fleas only came after Sam's father decided to investigate by scooping out some seawater and adding a piece of meat. Results were immediate. Marine biologists say they are arthropods, scavengers of the sea, similar to leeches.
These bugs are pretty small. There are just obviously thousands on Sam's legs in order to do the damage that they did.
They've been known to bite people before, but I've never seen anything like what happened to this boy.
I certainly won't be going icing my legs again anytime soon.
But some stingers can kill in the most unexpected ways and with the most unexpected victims. Closely related to the shark, there are 60 species of stingrays spread throughout tropical and subtropical waters. They love it in the shallows and spend much of their time half buried in the sand, which make them practically invisible to humans. Lacerations to the feet and lower legs are the predominant injuries.
Stingrays are a fairly docile creature unless they're feeling threatened by you. Several species have a very strong barb in their tail with venom in it, which can often result in a lot of pain.
This only adds to the surreal nature of the death of one of Australia's best-known and loved wildlife experts, a man very much at home with the most dangerous of animals. It was the last thing anyone expected when on the 4th of September 2006, Steve Irwin and his crew set out from Port Douglas, bound for Bat Reef near the Low Isles, to shoot some footage for his daughter Bindi's TV show on dangerous marine animals.
If ever he was going to go, we always said it was going to be the ocean. On land he was quick thinking, quick moving. The ocean puts another element in there that you have no control over.
Steve was on board Croc 1, heading for the reefs, the creatures and his fate. Paul Henley, a local architect, took this last photo.
Basically the whole office went to the back deck and gave him a wave, and I'm just amazed that I was able to capture that. Perhaps one of the last shots taken of Steve.
Steve and his cameraman had got some great footage of a massive stingray. They went down for one last shot.
Basically he came around over the top of it. The camera was ahead of it, of the ray, and Steve came in over the top, and that's when it happened.
Then, without warning, the creature attacked. It started stabbing wildly with its tail. Hundreds of strikes within a few seconds. It all happened so quickly, no one immediately realised something had gone badly wrong. The huge barb hadn't just stung him, it had ripped a gaping hole in Steve's heart.
It's just like a knife wound into the heart, but then on top of that, there would be a significant amount of the cardiac toxin.
Steve was brought to shore by boat. A rescue helicopter was dispatched, but he died in the hands of the paramedics.
All the animals that Steve Irwin is known to wrestle and wrangle and carry on with, to go by a stingray is just almost ridiculous.
To man, it is the most sinister, the epitome of evil. But anyone attempting to argue a case for their preservation runs up against one of our most instinctive fears.
Australia is famous for its deadly snakes. Approximately 20 of them are the most venomous snakes in the world. So we're doing really well on an international level.
550 people are admitted to hospital annually with snake bites, resulting in approximately 1 to 2 deaths per year.
You would expect that most snake bites would happen out in the bush. Actually, a lot of snake bites from venomous snakes happen inside the home.
Like this red-belly black snake found in a wardrobe. Or these carpet pythons discovered mating in a city roof.
And about 70% of people who've been bitten were actually trying to handle the snakes or kill the snake at the time.
Oh, hey, fella.
Watch out. These Brisbane snake wranglers are kept busy as the temperatures soar. A juvenile red-belly black snake was found next to a busy bike path.
And we got a result. We've done a lot out of the CBD here, but yeah, not many people know they are here.
In just one day, this team bagged 9 deadly eastern brown snakes and 4 red-belly black snakes.
It's okay, darling. Settle down.
Right near major playgrounds and tourist spots in the CBD. Fast-moving, aggressive and known for their bad temper, eastern brown snakes, together with other browns, are responsible for more deaths every year in Australia than any other group of snakes.
The brown snake is the second most venomous snake in the world.
They thrive in populated areas. This 1-metre eastern brown male was caught in a suburban garden net that wildlife services carefully extracted. And weirdly, there are even beach-loving browns.
1 bite's enough to kill 7 men.
We just came back from a swim, came back to dry ourselves, and there's a few snakes.
Came about that close to me.
But in the bush, they can be hard to spot.
There goes. What have we got here, mate?
If disturbed, the eastern brown raises its body off the ground, winding into an S shape, mouth gaping open and ready to strike. Its venom causes paralysis and stops the blood from clotting, which may take many doses of anti-venom to reverse. Victims can collapse within a few minutes. By the late 1980s, anti-venoms had long been proven as lifesavers, but the snake identification process still had issues. In suburban Adelaide, this almost led to a tragedy in the case of 3-year-old Josh Harper, who was bitten by a brown while he was taking a drink in the local park. His mother, Lorraine, rushed him to emergency.
As we walked through the door, Josh's heart stopped. Partial paralysis had set into his body. He was unconscious, of course, didn't know who I was or anything. I was starting to panic because I looked at them and I said, "Is Josh going to die?" And the doctor just glared at me. He didn't answer me, just sort of shrugged his shoulders. He explained then what they were doing and why it seemed to be taking so long, that they really needed to identify this snake because nothing can be done until it is.
I think it's that one.
The doctors were standing there with a snake and books and trying to identify the snake, and they would come in and look at him and just sort of shrug their shoulders at me and say, "Well, you know, we're trying." But as time was going on, you could see that Josh was losing, we were losing him.
With just minutes remaining before certain brain damage, snake expert Dr. Julian White arrives.
And Dr. White he walked in, and as he walked past the doctors, he said, "That's an adult brown snake, this is the type of venom, this is the amount, now get on with it." If Dr. White hadn't walked in, and at the very moment that he walked in, Josh would be dead. He would not be alive today.
And brown snake venom can cause some alarming symptoms. Safety Bay is a pretty coastal suburb of Perth, Western Australia, and home to Janine Taylor, who's also lucky to be alive. She looks like this because of a snake bite, but she wasn't bitten on her face. She was bitten on her foot.
Horrifically scared. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't put it to the sting on the toe.
It happened outside her local bowling club.
Felt like a sharp prick I actually thought maybe a spider had got me or a bee. My head was spinning, my brain was spinning. I couldn't move my legs.
She was rushed to hospital where the doctors first thought it was a heart problem, until several hours later when her face started bleeding because the venom was thinning her blood.
Then they started to panic. I'm going to die.
7 hours passed before the doctors realised she'd been bitten.
At 5 o'clock in the morning they said to me, do you want us to call the kids because we don't know whether you'll be talking to them in 20 minutes.
Doctors took a punt on the type of snake, giving her anti-venom for a brown snake.
People have died, you know, irrespective of anti-venom, they die.
But Janine pulled through and doctors couldn't believe it.
Quite dramatic signs of active bleeding into the soft tissues suggests that she was very lucky to survive.
If you think that's a lucky escape, how about this? In Alice Springs in 1994, Carol Matthews was just back at work after a kidney operation when things took a bizarre turn.
I felt the first prick and didn't think anything of it and just kept looking.
But when she felt a second prick, it made her look down. She couldn't believe what she saw.
A snake suspended in a spider web.
It wasn't just any web, it was home to a redback spider, and the snake was a deadly brown. She was rushed to hospital where there were doubts about her story.
Well, I don't think they believed us until Mum walked in with the jar with both of them in it.
Doctors say it's a miracle she survived. The red-bellied black snake is somewhat less venomous than many other Australian snakes. Its bite is certainly no picnic. It can still knock you off your feet.
If you are bitten by a red-bellied black snake, it is very serious. You will need hospitalisation, you will need the antivenom, and they are very dangerous.
This is Marie Enzer meeting a black snake for the second time in a fortnight. She was nearly killed by one at her Sydney home, and it left a painful souvenir.
It literally felt like barbed wire being pushed into your body, and you're trying to walk against it. It was pulling you back.
A far more serious snake is the aptly named death adder. Unlike other snakes that flee from approaching humans crashing through the undergrowth, common death adders are more likely to sit tight and risk being stepped on, making them more dangerous to the unwary bushwalker. The venom contains a type of neurotoxin which causes loss of motor and sensory function, including respiration, resulting in paralysis and death. In Cairns 2012, Alicia stepped out into the backyard and was attacked by a death adder.
I screamed.
She screamed, you know, in pain, obviously, and I came running out.
So I was very scared.
Quick-thinking mum applied pressure bandages so well, Alicia didn't suffer any symptoms until the doctors took them off.
Within a couple of hours, she started showing classic symptoms of a snake bite. That's when they did the venom kit test.
After a good dose of anti-venom, Alicia pulled through, having stared death right in the face.
Yeah, be careful.
In 2001, 7-year-old Anthony DeLuca was attacked by a death adder in his home on Magnetic Island. Luckily, his quick-thinking grandmother, June, was there to save the day.
By the expression on his face, I thought, well, he has been bitten by a snake. I raced inside and saw the death adder. So I grabbed his foot, sucked as fast as I could. I knew it was wrong, but it was instinct, and I did it I wanted to save him.
Grandma quickly wrapped a tourniquet, and he was airlifted to hospital when the venom took full effect.
He was on to his 4th dose of the anti-venom. He still couldn't swallow. He could see me, but there were 2 of me. His arms were still flying around in the air. He couldn't move other than involuntary reactions. With that last dose of anti-venom, he's just miraculously recovered.
This is the coastal taipan. You don't want to make an enemy out of one of these guys. Extremely nervous and alert, they put up a ferocious defence when surprised or cornered, freezing before hurling their lightweight body forward to inflict several lightning-fast snapping bites.
The taipan is one of Australia's unique species of wildlife, and certainly its most deadly.
Before the introduction of an anti-venom in 1956, taipan bites caused many human deaths.
A snake of this size to kill something like 23,500 laboratory mice. It's one of the most potent venoms in the world.
The venom affects the nervous system and the blood with nausea, convulsions, internal bleeding, destruction of the muscles and kidney damage. In severe cases, death can occur in just 30 minutes.
The Coastal taipan has up to 1 centimetre long fangs. They can grow to 9 foot long and they have the third most powerful toxin. And they're a fairly serious snake when it comes to defending themselves. So they're pretty deadly, yeah.
Meet Eli Campbell, the toddler who in September 2016 had Australia holding its breath. When Eli was collecting eggs in the family chicken coop in Queensland's Agnes Water, he was attacked by a coastal taipan, the third most deadly snake in the world. The 2-year-old was bitten 3 times, which for a boy his size should have been fatal.
Within seconds I hear, ow, ow, ow. I could see the snake. It was, probably pushing 2 meters long. Knew right away this is very serious. Ears were starting to kind of go bluey purple, losing his colour, losing kind of consciousness quite quickly.
Mum, Brittany, applied a pressure bandage. In the ambulance, Eli's heart stopped. He was considered dead for 6 minutes.
My partner's telling me, like, you've got to say goodbye to your boy because he's gone.
But after a week in a coma, little by little, Eli recovered, much to the delight of his parents and the entire country, with almost $100,000 donated to help with his recovery. Sadly, he will have to live with some long-term health issues, but the fact that he's still with us is truly a miracle.
Just rooting for him, every little thing he does, you're just like, yes, keep going, kid.
Over the years, there have been some strange and unlucky encounters with snakes. We're not sure if the driver recovered after this close encounter with the hitchhiking red-belly black. It might be the heat of the engine, but snakes do like a road trip.
It's going up on top of the tank, and so it just looks like he goes in like that, and his head's just sitting there like that.
This freeloading red-belly black caused chaos on a busy main road. The wheels of commerce were halted when a tiger snake was discovered in a Victorian bank. Staff were quick to down tools while a snake handler was called to rectify the situation.
Yeah, it's just a baby tiger snake that I've just removed from the kitchen.
But one man's snake encounter gives new meaning to the term up close and personal. The man was bitten on the penis by a brown snake during a roadside toilet stop in remote North Queensland.
I found a little tree to get in behind and I went to do my business and actually just sat down and started up, and yeah, I must have been right on top of him. Seen the fang marks and a bit of blood come out, and yeah, pretty much knew I was in trouble. It actually started to give me a bit of a burning sensation, so I shoved the cold rum can down there just to try and cool it down.
And after such a traumatic episode, did he and his member recover?
Yeah, it's all good, mate. Yeah, it's been tested, so she'll be right.
It's estimated that there are 10,000 species of arachnids or spiders in Australia, although only around 3,000 have been identified. Incredibly, considering their reputation, less than 50 are harmful to humans, but we wouldn't recommend getting this familiar, as the dangerous ones are very, very dangerous. Sydney, Australia. A city of over 5 million people. This suburban sprawl grows every year into bush and grasslands, pushing wildlife much closer to home. Found in all regions of Australia, the iconic redback spider has a bad reputation, with thousands of bites recorded every year. Although nobody has died since 1956, when a redback antivenom became widely available. The Sydney funnel web is the deadliest arachnid in Australia.
It is the most dangerous spider you can find.
Its fangs are larger than a brown snake's and so powerful they can pierce toenails. From the fangs, a lethal quantity of highly toxic venom is injected that attacks the human nervous system. This is an aggressive, capable killer. The funnel web burrows in moist, cool and sheltered habitats, often turning backyards into dangerous playgrounds. These small holes were home to a cluster of funnel webs. Upon discovery, they were killed with an insecticide sprayed into their burrows. At least 138 people have been attacked by funnel webs, with outdoor laundries a frequent location of bites. In 1978, after her husband Albert was bitten on the finger by a funnel web, Dorothy Stryver recalls how a washing basket held more than just socks.
I heard him saying, "Dorry, quick, Dorry, quick," and I come out and he just tried it. And I said, "Is it a funnel web?" And because we was running around in circles, he said, "Phone the hospital, phone the hospital." And so I just got a lump of string and just tied a tourniquet on it. That's all I know what to do. I didn't know what else to do.
Dorothy's action saved her husband's life. The tourniquet prevented the poison from travelling deep into his system, but it turned out Albert was lucky. The female spider on the right is the one that attacked Albert. Had it been this much larger male, things could have been a lot worse. Ryan McChrystal and his family also escaped a potential danger in 1979. They were shocked to discover dozens of funnel web holes beneath the grass their children were playing on. Ryan poured gasoline down the hole to kill the spiders, and at least 15 crawled to the surface to die.
How do you supposed to feel? You just feel upset and worried about the kids, and you know, just have to get someone in to exterminate the place, and you know, just go from there. The wife's not too happy, and the kids won't be playing out here for a while, that's for sure.
And in 1982, high school student Don Raymond could have been the next fatality were it not for a newly invented anti-venom.
Well, I was doing rugby training for the school, and I just started doing some sit-ups. I felt a bite. I thought it was only an ant, and I got up, looked around, I saw the spider there. The mates just grabbed me and laid me down, and they ran up, called an ambulance, got a stretcher out, and I just waited till the ambulance came.
At the time, the anti-venom cost $16,000 per dose. The cost has since been reduced, but no value can be put on its life-saving capabilities. There are so many dangerous spiders, snakes and stingers in Australia that researchers had to work for decades to find foolproof cures against these deadly creatures. To create the anti-venom, a small amount of the venom is injected into another domestic animal, such as a horse or a rabbit. The antibodies the animal creates in response to the venom are harvested, purified and stored for injection. The Australian Reptile Park, north of Sydney, is the only supplier of venoms in Australia.
These are some of the spiders that have come in recently.
And staff regularly milk more than 300 snakes and 500 spiders.
Oh, look at that. Huge squirt. This isn't the anti-venom, this is snake venom. So this is what's sent away. They process this and turn it into antivenin to save lives.
Australia is famous for its deadly creatures in the ocean and on the land. But there are other dangers, and they come from the skies. Bats can be found in every Australian state. In many cities and towns, tens of thousands fill the night skies as the massive colonies search for food at dusk. But some bats and flying foxes now carry the deadly Lissa virus, Australia's rabies. So far, the virus has killed 3 Australians, and every case has occurred in tropical Queensland. This peaceful resort of Long Island is nestled amid the pristine beauty of Queensland's Whitsundays, a paradise for tourists, and for 8-year-old Lincoln Flynn, it was an idyllic childhood playground.
He was an image of health with this beautiful tanned body and these blonde locks and big blue eyes. He was, yeah, he just looked amazing.
In 2010, Lincoln's mum Michelle took over as Long Island Resort's general manager. Stepdad Colin became maintenance supervisor.
He was a mad fisherman. He would swim, he would paddle on the paddle boards, anything really outside. He wasn't a typical modern city type kid, I guess, who spends too much time in front of the TV and the Xbox and the PlayStation. He was actually out there doing it, and he loved his life. He really did.
These loving parents thought they knew all the potential dangers that could harm their 3 children.
Certainly snakes and spiders.
Marine stingers, perhaps?
Yeah, the Irukandji, but a bat, never knew that there was even such a thing as lyssavirus.
Australian bat lyssavirus is a modern name for an ancient disease. And as with other types of rabies, it spreads the same way. Through a bite or scratch. Its victims turn violent and froth at the mouth. And when the lyssavirus struck Lincoln Flynn on Australia Day in 2013, he displayed another classic rabies symptom.
You know, and he said to me Friday night he had a temperature, and when I gave him some water and Panadol, he thought I was trying to burn him and scald his throat.
Overnight, Lincoln developed seizures. He was admitted to hospital the next morning, but doctors were baffled. A barrage of tests failed to find any answers.
He just really wanted out at that point. And that's when he knelt up on the bed and ripped out the IV lines. And, you know, obviously nurses and doctors come running. And he literally threw them off like they were teeny-weeny people.
It wasn't Lincoln, it was the lyssavirus. The virus can lay dormant in the body for years before becoming active. Once it does, it's unstoppable. It creeps from nerve cell to nerve cell towards the brain. There it begins to replicate, causing irreparable damage and driving its host to seek out and attack new victims. It then makes its way to the saliva glands to await transfer to the next host.
The strength that came through with this virus, and he had a lot of mouth secretions at that time because the virus was trying to escape and impart itself to as many people, and now you know it, it's just like it all looks back, and it was horrific.
Lincoln's seizures became so violent, doctors placed him in an induced coma and continued tests. As the family also searched for an explanation, Lincoln's sister recalled that he'd been scratched by a flying fox 2 months prior to his hospitalisation.
Okay, come back to me.
If Lincoln had told his parents about the scratch, he might have been alive today. A rabies vaccine administered at the time during the 2-month incubation period would have stopped the lyssavirus in its tracks. But once symptoms appear, it's too late. Doctors knew if the second round of tests found lyssavirus, it meant a death sentence for Lincoln. Briefly awoken from his coma, Lincoln confirmed that he had been scratched by a bat on Long Island. The tests came back positive, and a few days later, his brain stopped functioning. He became the 3rd person in history to be killed by Australian rabies.
The main point here is that any flying fox, any microbat in any colony could potentially carry these deadly diseases. We constantly put the message out there that if you come in contact with a bat or a flying fox, you need to seek medical assistance. The reality is this could happen in any of a number of locations around Queensland. And so the message clearly is that if you come in contact with any bat, any flying fox, please seek medical assistance as soon as possible.
Right across Australia, it pays to look out for attacks from the air. A survey has revealed that 90% of Australian men and 75% of women have been attacked by magpies. This amazing native bird is highly intelligent with very complex social behaviour. And for a few weeks of the year, while the chicks are nesting, the males can turn very nasty indeed.
Magpies are extremely territorial, and it's all about being good parents.
In 2015, in Gosford, New South Wales, little Isaiah Hang is lucky to be able to see. At 10 months old, he underwent surgery to save his eye after he was attacked by a magpie at a park near his home.
It never crossed my mind that a magpie would peck my baby in the eye and he could possibly lose his eye. So, yeah, it is pretty scary.
Soon after, 6-year-old Peter Adam Berry came close to losing his eye. He was attacked by the same angry bird along with 3 other children.
The magpie's with me right here. There's a cut right there.
Ophthalmologist Dr. Michael Jones says the injuries can be devastating.
We've had cases where people have had to unfortunately have an eye removed, but the sight can be damaged, and when you're damaging the central part of your eye, you can lose your vision to the point of being legally blind.
4-year-old Seth McGuinness was tragically one of those cases. He was attacked and left blind in one eye.
The male birds, for some reason, they get this huge boost of testosterone and they get super aggressive.
And it's not just kids who are the target. The magpies are particularly fond of terrorising push-bike riders.
Magpies are very intelligent. They recognise people. If they swoop on you, you could go home and change clothes, and they still will remember you and still swoop on you again.
The aerial ambush on cyclist James Musgrave happens every morning.
A couple of people have said, he should be shot, but I'm on Maggie's side.
But there is no one that ruffles the bird's feathers more than the magpie's prime target, the postie.
I saw in the corner of my eye this little black dot, looked like a little meteoroid. Just wings back. It was just like doing this massive dive bomb.
For years, Australian post workers have been attacked from the skies by these territorial troublemakers. But now the posties are hitting back with a battle plan.
If they're going to hit you, they'll hit the helmet at the back, keep your bike under control. So we just need you to be careful and vigilant out there.
Posties are being briefed on defensive techniques before donning their armoury and rolling out. The defence methods against the Maggie are many and varied, including eyes in the back of the head and scary masks. But do they work?
From my experience, no.
Australia's most deadly insect is found right across the country, from the outback to the densely populated cities. On the Sydney railway line, a swarm of bees began building their nests on the tracks. As rush hour approached, passengers were guided away from the active bees, disturbed by passing trains. Bee experts tried smoking the bees to calm them, but they simply moved onto the next platform. It is this instinctive capacity to move as one that makes bees so dangerous. The sting of one bee, if disturbed or swatted, injects venom into the victim and also releases alarm pheromones that signal the hive to attack.
Of the whole list of animals that are dangerous to Australians, the 2 top animals that kill people are horses and bees. Everybody's surprised by this. The bees in particular sting people, we know this, and people die from anaphylactic shock. It's the toxins in their venom that stop the heart beating, and people die from that situation.
The sting of the honeybee can cause anaphylaxis in roughly 3% of the population, with at least 25 deaths recorded in Australia since the year 2000, and on average is responsible for 2 deaths every year. Essential to Australia's farming and agriculture industries, the introduced European honeybee are known to aggressively defend their nests. It was a lucky escape for 1-year-old Nathalia Saver. She was stung more than 200 times by bees kept in a hobby hive at her Sydney home. Nathalia's mother died in the attack after shielding her daughter from the swarm and suffering a severe allergic reaction.
Australia has dangerous animals everywhere. They've got stingers in the ocean, we've got things that can bite you and eat you, and we've got snakes and spiders.
When travelling in Australia, the risk of encountering a dangerous animal is real, but mitigating that risk is the key.
There's some beautiful creatures, deadly but beautiful. Leave them alone, they'll leave you alone, but come and enjoy the beautiful, amazing animals that we have here in this country.